Hey, joining us now, Congressman, 2nd District, Republican, Virginia Beach, sits on the Appropriations Committee, Congressman Scott Rigell. Congressman Rigell, great to have you, man.
Hey, good to be back, John. Thank you very much. I've recovered from the speech last night, I think, and good to catch up with you.
You recovered. Okay, so let's get your reaction. The swan song of the president, basically, a couple of things he said. He said, even though you can't see the effects of it and you might be unemployed and median income is down 8%, trust me, he said, the economy is booming. Even though you don't have a job, it's just...
Well, not only that, John. It's like we're supposed to think that the birds are chirping. The sun is shining. It just doesn't comport with reality. And I was walking out of the House chamber last night, and one of my friends who I sat with, he said, "Scott, what do you think?" And my instinctive reaction was this. I said, "You know what the best thing about that speech was?" I said, "It's the last time he's ever going to give one." State of the Union, and my friend laughed. He said, I think I'll use that line. Anyway, I really do believe that. I think we just have to just wait this thing out. Whenever I can find some common ground with any person who's in public office at the federal level, and indeed at the local and state level, I'll do so. But it was really thin on where there is common ground. I always first look to that because it's so easy to find the other stuff, but there's not much there. I mean, talking about veterans, of course, he made, an acknowledgement of our veterans and I'm not questioning his motive there, but I tell you what, it seemed like it wasn't a whole lot there. Just the profound sacrifices being made, the need to fix the VA, the resolve and the commitment to do that really wasn't articulated. I do agree with him on the redistricting. I think we can do a better job there. I'm in strong agreement on the need for an AUMF, authorization for the use of military force. In fact, I think I was probably among the first to stand on that because I feel very strongly about that. General Joe Dunford, Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, says it would help our troops. It would help us to work through that. So does the Secretary of Defense Carter. So, we're in agreement on that. After that, John, it just fades. There are profound disagreements, and there just wasn't much there. In fact, I actually thought some of those things that he said and the way that he said them, I just winced. Kind of that mocking comment about, some of you wanted to get to Iowa. That was pretty funny. But then he said, "Hey, if you want some advice, just let me know." I mean, that's unbecoming of the President of the United States. And then he talked a little later about, we got a clear choice before us. Voters will have a clear choice. And I thought, whoa, where's he going with this? Is he going to segue into some political ad or something? It's just kind of hard to process a lot of that, and I'm just glad that we're down to the last year.
Well, I remember you said to me about 12 months ago that you had a calendar and you were put an X through each day that he would still be in office, like a guy in prison, where you do the X's on the wall. And so the guy gets the good news is, the X's are piling up and there's an end to this nightmare. But one of the things that was amazing to me that he said last night is when he talked about ISIS, he still cannot call the enemy what it is. He cannot say terrorist, Muslim, Islamic extremist.
No, yeah. By the way,
he called them.
I spoke with
twisted.
Yep.
He referred to him, Congressman, as twisted souls. The hell is that?
Well, they're that, but they're a lot more than that. I talked to Bill Bartell, the Virginian pilot, and I read the article this morning, and he picked up on this because we talked about a lot of things, but he thought this was newsworthy. I just said, I was telling Bill last night after the speech that, the president went to great lengths to distance the Muslim faith. And look, I get it that an overwhelming number of Muslims indeed are peace-loving. I get that. But the percentage is significant enough of those who are irrefutably inspired by that same literature and by the same doctrine there to go off and become radicalized. I mean, you really, to dislink the two, I think, is just, it's an affront to logic as I see it. And I don't see correctly referring to those who callously, with absolute disregard for human life, attack civilians and things like that, to call them, radical Islamic, terrorists, is that to me, we have to kind of define it, because I think the solution ultimately is going to be found within the religion itself. I believe that. And I think to the extent that we can, as I see it, it's part of my effort. It may be imperfect, but it's part of my effort to say to our friends in the Muslim community, look, it's got to be you. Just as it would be if some of these things were happening within, any other faith. So I'm with you on that, and I've been very clear about this, and no, he's just got a different view on that.
Here we are. It's now going into February. Still no authorization for military engagement in Iraq, in Syria. We keep talking about it. We had you on our show about when I was at the Advance, so that was about a month ago, in a joint call with Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, who's also been on the forefront of this. Another month goes by, and I asked the same thing to other congressmen, and what they tell me is Republican congressional leadership wants no part of it. Well, you're on the Appropriations Committee.
No.
What's the deal?
Well, I'm sorry, John, you clipped out. The phone clipped out just a little bit. Could you repeat the last sentence?
Who's blocking it?
Okay. Look, I'll walk through this. It's not the House Armed Services Committee, not Chairman Mac Thornberry, and it's not the subcommittee chairman, the two of whom are our neighbors there, Rob Whitman and Randy Forbes. The holdup is really in the Committee on Foreign Affairs. I know that with certainty because of conversations that I've had, direct, significant, in-depth conversations with leadership. I've approached from the Speaker to the Majority Leader. I know where the holdup is, and it is within the Republican conference right now, and I'm making an effort with others to turn that around. Now, look, last night, as best as I remember, I stood up and applauded when he said we need an AUMF. A lot of my Democratic friends did. I didn't. I think I saw one or two Republicans, and I really don't understand it, John. Many hold the view, including the Speaker, who I think so much of, but we're in sharp disagreement on this. The Speaker Ryan believes that the President has the authority under the 2001 and 2002 authorization for the use of military force to do what he's doing. I hold the view that it's also held by Senator Tim Kaine that no, they do not apply. They cannot. You cannot construct, those sentences and to interpret them to say that he's got the authority for what he's doing now. Well, I feel very passionate about this. We need to debate this on the House floor. General Joe Dunford, Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, said it's needed. I share his view. He was there last night. I couldn't get to him to speak to him, but I just think we owe our men and women in uniform everything we can give them, the moral support, the sense that the country's behind them in a unified effort. And that's part of the value. It's not, you can't quantify it, John, but it needs to be wrestled with on the House and the Senate floor and sent over to the President for signature. And there are some times like this one where I wish our side did better.
Look, Congressman, it's a disgrace that our young men and women are getting shot and maimed over there, and we have representatives in Washington that don't have the courage to hit a yes button or a no button, so they want to hide behind something. Meantime, our kids are over there getting shot and blown up. I mean, come on, man. It's disgraceful. You guys, I don't know what Chairman Ed Royce's deal is, but there's a fear, I think, from people that I've talked to, there's a fear that they're going to have to go on the record. And so, are you kidding me? You don't want to go on the...
No, I think that's part of it, and I wouldn't... I don't know of any member who has said that to me, so I'm not going to apply that to any member. I do know that a concern is this, that, okay, well, and it's been said to me, well, Scott, what if we wrestle with this and we can't agree on one? And I just look right back at him and I say, trust the people. Trust the American people's representatives. I mean, John, there is so much bitter partisanship up in Washington. I mean, that's well known. But I can tell you, at those moments when we've had to wrestle with these national security issues, I see something in the eyes of my Democratic friends that is the same look that I see in my Republican friends, is that we're wrestling with this, trying to get it right. Look, you can't extricate and remove all political considerations from every vote. I get that. But Democrats have fought and died for this country. One of my good friends up here is Seth Moulton. Look, he's a combat decorated Marine, and he's a Democrat. Look, he's got a seat at the table. I mean, he's done something that I haven't done, that Providence didn't call upon me to do. He's got a seat at the table when it comes to this matter and other things. So I just say trust the people. We'll do the right thing on the House floor. We can agree upon language that is sufficient to the threat that's posed to us, and at the same time, I think will keep us out of nation-building and ever-expanding, sense of American hyper-involvement around the world.
Well, look, I think you're right, but we need action on it, and it's just part of the reason why so many Americans right now feel betrayed by the entire system, whether it's either side. I mean, you look at Trump and Sanders. Sanders is going to win Iowa. He's going to win New Hampshire. This guy's a socialist.
That's scary.
Senator Sanders, I mean, he's going to win 2 states, and he's a socialist. But
I can't even wrap my mind around that, John. It's to me the antithesis of what is in our core DNA as Americans. Look, I think we are a community-minded, neighbor-minded people. That's a good thing. The president did speak to that last night, and I think I tried to say, well, could he thread the needle of saying, yes, we are community-minded, but where is the sense of the self-reliance part, the freedom that is given to us at this heavy cost? It's our job to leverage that and take advantage of it. And this idea of having even a socialist serious candidate in America that's deeply troubling to me.
And people, I'm telling you, they are frustrated with the cabal in Washington, Wall Street, the banksters, the globalists, and so that's driving some of this. Congressman, I want to get to one thing I've been railing against,
sure,
as you know, forever, which is this Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. I had a chance over the holidays to, read this thing. It's online now. I couldn't understand all of it, but, we just started our staff just circling things. I mean, this thing it is basically taking our sovereignty away. There's an unlimited amount of foreign workers that can come in.
We're going to be like a couple of battering, old rams on this one, and we're just going to collide and collide and collide on it. I respect your view. I don't share it. I tell you, if we don't have a framework for negotiating and working through these things, people are going to do an end run around us, John. I don't think I gave. This is probably in the top 5 bills that I've ever wrestled with. Read it, went downstairs. Frankly, went to Paul Ryan and sat in his office and talked to him personally, privately, about this matter and about the concerns that I had, because may recall, he was championing it. And look, my mind actually had been made up. I'd asked for the appointment with him. He was very kind, and immediately gave it to me. But in the interim, I'd already made up my mind based on everything that I'd read, that it was clearly, it would strengthen us as a country. I believe that. John, you can, and look, I know your view is sincerely held as well. But
we're on total
respectfully unapologetic about my support of that.
Look, we can't. You know what? This is one, Congressman. You and I are going to have to agree to disagree. I was opposed to.
That's right.
I was one of the only Republicans opposed to NAFTA. I said it would be a disaster. It's worse than I thought. This thing is going to screw American workers. You get all kinds of low wage workers. And look, you might think, you can give me the argument about it's a global economy. It's driven by one thing: the slave traders searching the globe for cheap labor at the expense of U.S. American middle income workers.
Well,
at the end of the day,
think the
that's all
alternative
this
to doing
is.
nothing if you think the alternative of doing nothing is going to alleviate that or in any way mitigate it, then I don't think you're matching up with the reality that we're facing. We've got to confront things like substandard working conditions, unsafe working conditions, severe and obvious environmental harm, child labor. Those type of things have to be worked through an agreement, John. If you think we can just go around the world and one company at a time, Apple's going to say, "Well, I'm not going to do business in this country." That ain't going to work. Well, I think you do need a framework.
This is a living, breathing agreement that we're making with communist countries like Vietnam that can be changed at any time, where we're giving our sovereignty up, and we're going to have an international bureaucracy.
That's a hard right. That is a hard right, thing that likes to be leveraged, giving away our sovereignty, and everybody gets all up in arms. And look, John, you and I are friends before this call. We're going to be friends after this call. But we are really sideways on this one. We are not giving away the sovereignty of the United States of America. I would not. It would be a violation of my oath of office and my fiduciary responsibility. And again, we can disagree on this, and I'm not going to question your motives, but I tell you, I'm as equally as forceful as you are and clear as you are in your view. I hold the reciprocal view.
Well, this is a disaster for America and for the American worker.
Well, okay. Look, you're the host. I'll let you have the last word on that.
You're gonna rue the day. I'm telling you that you brought in this thing.
Right.
But look, we can agree to disagree on that.
Yeah.
Let's get to this this other thing I've been leading the charge against. I don't know how you stand on it, but I'm incensed over this ridiculous Republican pledge that is going to be foisted on unsuspecting voters.
You were in agreement on this one, John.
On Tuesday. I mean, this is the most insane thing I've ever seen. It gets me so fired up. The state of Virginia, the Republican Party of Virginia, is 0 for 7. It can't win an election if it jumped them in the lap and called them daddy, and now they want to turn people away. How does this make any sense?
Hey, listen, the way I see it, I put it this way. Well-intentioned, deeply flawed. It's not without some basis. There was a genesis point, a place that this thing all started with. Let me tell you where I see it, and I actually saw the need for one. I don't support it because it is flawed, but I remember in Jeff McWaters when he was running in his primary, I saw people in the line where I was voting. They were, without question, some of the strongest Democrats that I know. And they were there as a family, all four of them, 2 parents, 2 children, adult children, for the express purpose of not elevating Jeff McWaters. And I knew that with certainty. I mean, this isn't a guess of mine. It was based on things that they had said publicly, emails that had gone out, et cetera. So, I mean, and I thought, man, they're coming in to shape this primary. It's our primary. We're electing our best candidate. So I get it that happens on the margin, but not enough in any way to be willing to take this kind of backlash from the community at large, and whether this is directly attributed to the Trump campaign, I think there's something to that.
Well,
and I'm not a Trump supporter, by the way.
Yeah, well, I know that you're voting for Marco Rubio on Super Tuesday, right?
Oh, yes, I am.
I'm voting for Trump, and this thing was concocted with one objective in mind, and that was to stop independent Trump voters and to stop Trump in Virginia, and that's the bottom line, and that's why it's in there, and that's why we're fighting to stop it. I'm out of time. I want to thank Congressman Scott Rigell for being with us. More information, Rigell.house.gov, and you can also go there, follow him on Twitter and all that good stuff. Congressman, good to have you with us.
Always, John. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate your candor. You're spot on the pledge, dead wrong on the Trans-Pacific Trade
Well, we can pick that up anytime. Maybe a cup of coffee at my office sometime.
Oh, I got to take off.
So
all right.
We'll hammer it out.
Thanks for being with us.